and welcome to Post to Post, the channel where we discuss all things hockey. My name's Neil, and I'm back here again with my friend Justin. Justin, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And we're here to discuss top forwards of all time and also top forwards currently in the NHL. So we'll have two lists of our top five, and we're going to start with our top five current forwards in the NHL. So Justin, why don't you start off with your number five? And just before he does, I don't know what his list is, and he doesn't know what my list is, so we're going to be finding this out as a surprise. So, Justin, go ahead with your number five.
I want to start by saying I had a lot of fun doing this, really digging deep in advanced stats and whatnot. So I really enjoyed it. Now, number five for me may come as a shock to some, but he really defines what a two-dimensional player is for me, and that would be Henrik Zetterberg. At number five. Now, some may say, well, he's kind of getting up there in age and so on, but he's still able to produce. And what I like the most about Zetterberg is his two-way game, and he's one of the best in the NHL currently. Now, keep in mind, he is a former Conn Smythe Trophy winner, Stanley Cup champion. I mean, to me, the guy is going to be a future Hall of Famer, and he's closing in slowly on 1,000 points. And you'll probably see him pass the 900-point threshold before the year is out. He's currently at 882.
Interesting.
So he's really getting up there. But his plus-minus is 154 for his career. And that's a stat I really look at when looking at players.
So I don't know if you have this statistic here, but do you know what his points per game average is?
Points per game average. Unfortunately, that is not on my printout.
How many games has he played? Did you have that?
Yeah, his games played is 978, and he has 882 points. So, I mean, he's not overly far away from a point per game.
No, that's a great. Yeah.
But to me, that's a Hall of Fame statistic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really. And what really stood out for me as well of his 882 points, 312 of those came on the power play.
Oh, wow.
That's a huge percentage.
Wow.
So his power play production is through the roof.
That's impressive.
You need a guy like that.
Yeah, for sure. And he's been with Detroit his entire career, if I'm not mistaken.
Entire career.
And he's getting a little older now. So
he's the franchise there now.
Yeah.
Now that Lidstrom's gone. So.
Yeah, and Eiserman's gone too. And I don't disagree with your choice. I think that's a pretty solid number five. And to be honest, I didn't even think about Zetterberg.
It was tough.
Yeah.
To only pick five, to be honest. Yeah. It was tough.
So I didn't do as much research as Justin. I did a little bit, but I don't have as much written down. But my number five is Jonathan Toews. So I didn't rank him any higher just because, I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad player. Obviously, he's a great player. Jonathan Toews, he's won 3 Stanley Cups. He's offensively gifted. He's defensively gifted. He's a fabulous leader.
Yep.
I don't know his statistics. I didn't write them down, but he came in number five for me. That's
a good choice. I wouldn't argue that one.
I'm trying to think about how many games he has played because he's still pretty young.
Yeah, he's not even 30 years old yet.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to watch his career progress and see how he does. And
well, the nice thing about Toews is it seems that no matter what happens, how many cups Chicago wins or who leaves as a free agent, he always has an amazing supporting cast.
Yeah.
And a supporting cast is what's really going to help your point production. And Toews always has that in Chicago. So I see him being, a standout guy for many years to come.
Absolutely.
So.
All right, moving on to number four. Let's hear it.
Number four. Now, this one was kind of a toss-up between number three. I wasn't sure who I should put three, who I should put four, but I ultimately decided on Evgeny Malkin.
Oh, Malkin, okay.
Yeah, Malkin for number four. Now, Malkin as well is closing in on 1,000 points. He's currently at 821 points in 697 games played.
Wow.
So, it's to the point now where, he's still over a point per game in his career. But what stood out for me again is his power play goals. Now, this was an interesting statistics. He has 320 goals on his career. He has 116 power play goals, 317 power play points for 821 of his career. So his power play production is through the roof.
Wow.
And again, plus minus, he's a 72, about half of what Zetterberg is. Malkin is an offensively gifted powerhouse, power forward, but defensively, he's nowhere near the caliber of Zetterberg.
Right.
But I mean, Malkin is just so important to the Pittsburgh's success and their depth. And that's what really brought Malkin in at number 4. Now, of course, he's a 2-time Art Ross winner, Ted Lindsay Award, Hart Trophy, Conn Smythe. He won the Calder the year he came in, and he's a 2-time Stanley Cup champ.
Yeah, and I think he often gets overshadowed by Sidney Crosby.
He does.
If Malkin was on St. Louis before St. Louis had Tarasenko, Malkin would be a franchise player.
He would, and Malkin kind of elevates his game. Every time Crosby was injured, Malkin went on to win the Art Ross. It's the strangest thing, but it seems as soon as he became the GOAT after a Crosby injury, he took that team on his shoulders and he just went all out. But yet when they're both in the lineup, Malkin's production actually goes down, which is strange. And people have said for the longest time, if he were not on Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh's the only team where Malkin would be the number 2 guy. You could put him anywhere else and he'd be the number 1 guy probably.
Interesting.
But because he's backing Sidney Crosby, he's the number 2 in Pittsburgh. You put him on any other team, well, maybe besides Edmonton because it's hard to top McDavid, but it would be interesting to see how he would do.
Absolutely. I definitely agree. So I guess we'll move on to my number 4. This is pretty controversial.
Ooh, okay. I like controversy.
4 and 5 really for me kind of went back and forth in my head, but I made the decision that's not going to be a popular decision. My number 4 is John Tavares. I've put Tavares before Taves. And why did I do that? Well, Tavares doesn't have a cup. He has never won any major trophies, I don't think.
No.
He has a World Junior Championship, I think.
Yep.
But other than that, he hasn't really done much for a championship. But much like Taves, Tavares has, I would say, definitely more offensive skill.
Yes.
He is as responsible defensively as Taves. And he's a little more feisty, and I think that's why I put him up a little bit above Taves. There's no knock on Taves. Taves is calm, and that's a great asset. But for me, I think Tavares is just a little more feisty, and he's not afraid to give some lip to some players or some refs and stuff like that. So I like to see that. So that's why Tavares moved up for me to number 4.
Nice. Well, hey, he's a consistent player. He's a guy that'll probably always get you to 70, 75 points a season. Superstar status in today's NHL. But one thing I actually remember when I was doing my research and trying to figure out my top 5, I purposely skipped over him because if you look at his career stat, he's a minus 17 on his career.
Well, I guess that probably makes sense considering his supporting cast and the
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just going to say. Plus minus, you can look at it and say, well, a player does have to take some responsibility here defensively on the ice. And you never want to be on the ice when goals are scored against your club. But your supporting cast really plays a big role in that too. You could look at Wayne Gretzky and his plus minus is through the roof. He's over plus 500, but he's probably the least defensive player of all time. He just waited at the opposing blue line.
Exactly. Yeah.
Get me the puck. So, but I won't argue that one too much.
All right, sounds good. I'm glad that we both had a different 5. We both had a different 4 different players already. So that's pretty interesting to see.
I think it could become quite repetitive near the top, maybe.
Yeah, I think so too. So number 3 for you.
Number 3 for me would be Patrick Kane. Now, Patrick Kane had an amazing year last year, if you remember. He won the Art Ross, the Hart, the Ted Lindsay, and so on. Now, he's a 3-time Stanley Cup champion with the Chicago Blackhawks. But the nice thing about Patrick Kane is the consistency level out of him as a player. You're always going to get that top forward talent out of him when it comes to point production, goals, as well as his ability just to carry that puck up ice.
Yeah.
There's few in the NHL that can really do that to the caliber of Patrick Kane. His stick handling is almost next to none, especially if you look at him in a shootout.
Oh yeah.
Some of the moves he can pull out just kind of blows your mind at times. But he's currently a plus 78 for his career. He's got 728 points and 720 games played. So he's just a tiny bit over a point per game average in his career. But with his consistency level right now, I could see him actually creating a huge difference there with his point per game production. I think it could actually go up higher than what we've seen, especially if we look at last season. So yeah, he's number 3 for me currently.
I like that choice. And, Patrick Kane's not a big guy.
No, he's not.
The fact that he can do what he does on a consistent nightly basis is impressive.
Yeah.
Because he's so quick that guys have trouble getting the puck off of him.
Yeah, and again, too, supporting cast is a big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the lineup in Chicago, and they have an amazing team right now.
Yeah.
And Patrick Kane just adds to that.
Absolutely. Well, moving on to my third choice is Patrice Bergeron. He's drafted 45th overall, I think. I could be mistaken. If I am, let me know below. But, Patrice Bergeron has done literally everything. He's won a cup. He's won a world championship. He's won an Olympic gold medal. He's the heart and soul of the Boston Bruins. He's one of the best defensive forwards in the game in the past 5 years at least. He contributes offensively, and he's calm. He's a leader. The guys listen to him. He's the exact kind of player that you want on your team.
His name really popped into my mind when I was doing the list. But I'm starting to see a downward decline of Bergeron. I mean, he's not 25 anymore.
Right.
Things are really starting to catch up with the guy, unfortunately. And for me, that was one of the main reasons why I didn't pick him for my top 5. Is just because I'm really starting to notice that decline in his career, unfortunately.
Definitely. I respect that. Yeah. All right, moving on to your number 2.
Number 2 for me is Connor McDavid.
Oh, Connor
Number
McDavid.
2. Now, some may look at that and say, well, you're kind of jumping the gun there. Like, yeah, okay, he's still insanely young. I get that. But he's already shown flashes of brilliance, like when Crosby came in the league in 2005. You see him on the ice and he just looks leaps and bounds above everybody. And his blinding speed is just contagious.
Yeah.
Every time he picks up the puck and he's rushing up ice, I'm just drawn right in. Like, wow, okay, let's see what happens here. I mean, he's just flying when he's taking the play up ice. But right now he currently sits with 119 points and 108 games played. So it's not a huge spread by any means, but he is over a point per game for his career so far. But I see him just getting better year after year. And to me, he already looks better this year than he did last year. His plus minus, he's currently a plus 18 on his career. And if I had to pick out something out of his game, it would be his defensive capabilities. They're basically non-existent. And to me, that is a big concern. And there's goals that I see happen quite often where he's just way behind on the play. And if he had got his head down, trucked it up ice as fast as he could, he might have been able to break something up there, and stop a goal from happening. But yeah, his defensive play would be something I would really go after if I was the coach in Edmonton. Try to make him become a two-way player because I know he has that ability.
Yeah, definitely. And Edmonton's an interesting team because they're not loaded with superstars.
No.
And McDavid seems to bring out the best in his line mates, and not just his line mates, but his teammates. So like Letestu, Maroon, like these guys are having Draisaitl. We're having great careers this year. So he's the kind of player that brings out the best in other teammates. So
that's what you want.
Yeah,
with your captain.
Well, number 2 on my list is Alexander Ovechkin, and I have a feeling he's not on your list, and
No.
I know why, because he's defensively one of the worst in the league. But I just had to put him on my list because if you think about all the natural goal scorers in the NHL, I mean, truly gifted, the best natural goal scorers. Ovechkin has to be way up there, if not the best. Like, his shot is so accurate consistently. It's incredible. And I don't know if there's anyone else who is that offensively gifted with his stick, like in his shot. He's always creating chances. He's a fast skater. He's big. He lays the body. And like I said, his shot is so accurate, but his defensive game is atrocious. But,
he has that shoot first mentality.
Yeah.
And I've been an advocate for years saying that Washington will never win a cup as long as that guy is on their roster.
Unfortunately.
He's the guy that can get you to the big dance because his goal production is just through the roof. He can get you that goal to get you to the big dance. But when you do get to the big dance, where is he?
Yeah, and he's been to a few big dances, and he's left empty-handed.
Yeah, he has, and I just don't see that changing for him in his career. He's the complete opposite of a two-way player. What was he the other year? Like a minus 50?
Yeah.
For the season?
Yeah, it's not good.
I mean, come on. That just screams volumes for me. And no, he wouldn't even be in my top 10
Wow.
That's how much I dislike Alexander Ovechkin.
I love him. I think he's great.
Well, I think personality-wise, the guy's hilarious.
Right,
You see him in interviews and stuff. But if I'm looking at it from a GM perspective of, okay, who do I want to build my team around? Who's going to be my top forward? He wouldn't even be in my top 10.
I understand that. Yeah, for sure. So let's move on to your number one, and I assume it's my number one as well. So
Surprise, surprise, Sidney Crosby.
Yeah,
Now, Crosby will be 30 on August 7th. And some may look at it and say, well, Connor McDavid is better than Crosby. I'm sorry, but it's going to take a little bit of time for McDavid to surpass Crosby as the current best forward in the league.
yeah,
McDavid will be better than Crosby. I see it. I guarantee it. But right now, Crosby is still the best in the world at what he does. And I mean, career-wise, he's currently 1,005 points in 761 games played. His point per game is 1.32. That's fifth all time, having played at least 500 games. To be fifth all time in today's NHL,
yeah,
that is insane. And some can say, well, supporting cast played a huge role. Like, yeah, the guy has played with some elite talent. But I mean, if you look at a lot of the guys he has played with, I don't really look at them as elite talent. Chris Kunitz, is he elite talent? I mean, the emergence of Connor Sheary this past year, that's been huge. Who would have predicted that? I mean, no one looked at Connor Sheary this year as elite talent.
Yeah, exactly.
But the guy's able to elevate the game of everybody around him because he's able to see the ice in a way that we could only dream of. He's able to anticipate plays, be there ahead of time in order to make something happen out of nothing. And to me, he's still the best in the game today. Messier Leadership Award, 2 Art Ross trophies, Maurice Richard Trophy. He's won the Ted Lindsay Award 3 times, 2-time Hart Trophy winner, Conn Smythe Trophy, 2 Stanley Cups, Olympic gold, World Junior gold, World Cup gold, and the list goes on, ladies and gentlemen. There's absolutely nothing left for this guy really do in his career.
Yeah.
He's won it all.
He's a generational player.
He is, and there's no sign of him slowing down yet, but it will happen.
It'll definitely
catches
happen.
us all.
And we've kind of had this discussion before, but maybe later in his career he'll leave Pittsburgh. I know you don't want him to, but
no,
I have a feeling he might.
I've actually said it for years that once his contract's up in Pittsburgh, he might sign a 1-year deal to finish off his career in Montreal. Yeah. Because growing up, Montreal was his boyhood team. He cheered for them, watched them, just loved everything Montreal. That would kill me on the inside if he did that. Like, totally kill me. But at the same time, I could really respect it.
Yeah.
And the guy has earned that status of he could basically do whatever he wants.
Exactly.
And if he wants to sign a 1-year deal with Montreal, he's going to sign a 1-year deal with Montreal.
Exactly.
The guy's a superstar.
And much like Yager, if Crosby's in good shape and he wants to play till he's 45, any team in the league will sign him.
Well, with his workout regime, he could play till he's 55.
Yeah.
The stuff this guy does on and off the ice to keep himself in game shape is unbelievable.
Exactly.
His work ethic.
All right, well, that was our top 5 from the current NHL forwards. And next on the list, we have about 10 minutes left, so we'll have to go through these ones a little quicker. But we're going to do the all-time NHL forwards, and this only includes retired forwards. So Crosby won't be on this list. Ovechkin, no one who is currently in the NHL. It's only retired players. So, Justin, let's start off with your number 5.
Now, I had a lot of fun with this, too, and really digging up the past and a lot of my idols growing up as a kid. Now, number 5 for me would be Steve Yzerman. 1,755 career points and 1,514 games played for a 1.159 points per game average throughout his career. Now, this is a guy who you could look at and say, well, he's almost done it all, really, in his career. He's a 3-time Stanley Cup champion. He's won the Bill Masterton Memorial Trophy. He's won a Conn Smythe Trophy, the Selke Trophy, a great two-way player. And he was the Detroit Red Wings franchise for many years. And now he's transitioned to a GM role. And, hey, he's even won that as well, GM of the Year. So the guy can do it all.
Definitely. I totally understand that choice. And I'm glad that you had him on your list. Number 5 for me is Lemieux, Mario Lemieux. Not Claude Lemieux.
Yeah, the real Lemieux.
Yeah. So, Mario Lemieux, and he's a little lower than you'd probably like to see, but he was a bit injury prone.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think, did he have cancer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
he had a cancer scare.
That's a little more than an injury, but he also was injured and stuff too. So, and if you look at his games played, I think he has 900 and some games played. If he played the same amount of games as Gretzky, it would be very interesting to see how many points that Lemieux would have.
It would be.
But based on, he probably played half of the time that he could in the NHL, maybe a little more than half.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I have him number 5. I would have liked to see a full career of Lemieux.
Well, as long as he's in your top 5, I'm happy.
Yeah, he's number 5 for me. So let's move on to your number 4.
Number 4 for me may come as a surprise. I kind of went off the radar a little bit.
Okay.
And number 4 for me is Doug Gilmour.
Doug Gilmour.
Yes.
Wow.
Now, there's a big reason for this because GMs love a guy who can do it all. He can score a goal. He can set up a play. He'll even drop his gloves and fight for his team. Doug Gilmour is one of those players that just solidifies what an all-around player should be, and that is Doug Gilmour. Now, he's also won a Stanley Cup. He's won the Canada Cup, and his points per game, when he finally hung up his skates, was 0.959. So just under a point per game average. And he finished his career with 1,414 points in 1,474 games. So the guy had a very long career and a very successful career.
Interesting. That his name definitely was not on my radar for this. I'm just quickly going to fix your camera. I think it's laying down a little bit. That should be a little better.
See, I said Doug Gilmour and the camera frowned.
Yeah. That's an interesting pick, and I don't necessarily disagree. I didn't know those stats that you just listed off.
Doug Gilmour.
It's pretty cool.
Growing up.
And he got a cup in '89 with Calgary.
Yep, 89.
And he played for Toronto, Montreal, and
yeah, the guy was all over, and he is probably the love of Don Cherry's life.
Yeah,
Doug Gilmour. Well, next to Bobby Orr, of course.
Number 4 on my list is Jean Beliveau.
Jean Beliveau. Ooh, we're going way back.
We're going way back.
Wow.
And this is because, I'm obviously not very old, so I've never had the opportunity to see him play other than highlights and stuff like that. But based on what all the greats like Gretzky and Lemieux and all these people have said about Jean Beliveau, he is probably one of the greatest leaders in hockey of all time.
Class act.
And Stanley Cups and leadership, and the guy really loved the game and respected it and stuff. So for me, his leadership alone and his respect that he got from everyone else in the league made him number 4 on my list.
Leadership's a huge quality in hockey.
So number 3.
I can respect that. Let me flip my sheet here. Number 3. I know who it is, but there's certain stats I wanted to say. Number 3 for me is Mike Bossy.
Mike Bossy. That's an interesting choice.
Now, Mike Bossy only played 10 years. That's it for his career. But in those 10 years, he did a lot. Like, he was there for the Cups with the Islanders and so on. But he only played 752 games in his career. But he managed to rack up a staggering 1,126 points.
Wow.
And 573 goals, which means he averaged over 50 goals a year for 10 years.
That's impressive. He's
one of the key guys in the elite list of 50 and 50. He scored 50 goals in 50 games. And he finished off his career at a plus 381.
Wow.
Which is huge to me. And his points per game was 1.497. So he's in that top 5 with Gretzky, Lemieux, Crosby for the highest points per game for a guy to play over 500 games.
Very interesting.
So Mike Bossy, to me, is huge. And now, he was also Rookie of the Year in 78 when he came in. He won the Calder. So that's huge. And, of course, he won the Conn Smythe in 82 as well. So, hey, Mike Bossy is one of the greatest goal scorers of all time.
Yeah, definitely. And he has many cups with the Islanders, like I think you said at the beginning there. So, he's gone to the big dance, and he's succeeded.
And he succeeded,
He succeeded. So, very good pick. Number 3 for me is Rocket Richard. Much like Ovechkin, he made this list for me just because of his natural goal-scoring ability.
Right.
You can't win games if you can't score goals, and to me, Rocket Richard was one of the best goal scorers of all time. And he would fight, he would throw hits, he was a pretty rugged guy.
Guy was a badass.
Yeah, and his story is very interesting, and how he grew up and stuff, and he had a love for the game too, just like Jean Beliveau. But yeah, Rocket Richard, number 3 on my list.
Wow. Okay, I'm actually surprised by that one. I must say.
I went back a little further than.
Yeah. All right. Well, number 2 for me is Mario Lemieux. Number 2. He's probably the greatest power forward of all time. And what's interesting is Mario Lemieux is the only guy in the top 30 of all time for points, having played less than 1,000 games.
Yeah.
That speaks volumes to me. He's only played 915 games in his career, but he has a staggering 1,723 points. And he's, of course, a plus player at 115, and his points per game is 1.883, which places him number 2 all time in points per game for his career. Now, he's won cups with Pittsburgh. He single-handedly turned that franchise around when they were near bankruptcy.
Yes, he did.
Now, of course, being with the ownership of the team, he's still succeeding and still getting his name on that cup.
Yes, he is.
Even is no longer being an active player. Injuries, unfortunately, shortened his career, and you can only dream about what he could have done if he stayed healthy.
Absolutely.
So he's number 2 for me.
He's got a great relationship with Crosby, too.
Yeah. Crosby used to live in his house.
Yeah, when he first came in the league.
Yeah, as an 18-year-old.
Yeah. Number 2 for me is Yzerman, so this will be a quick one. You've already said so many amazing things about Yzerman that I completely agree with.
Player.
So, and based on that, he was my second choice of best all-time forward.
I always say he's kind of an underestimated guy, too.
Definitely.
You don't see his name come up enough, and it really needs to come up more.
Absolutely.
He was that much of an impact.
He was that good.
Now, number 1 for me probably won't come as a shock to you, but it would be Wayne Gretzky. There's absolutely no argument here. He's the most gifted forward of all time. Defensively, he definitely wasn't there. But if the guy had the puck on his stick, something was always going to happen.
Yeah.
His points per game is the highest of all time of anybody having played more than 500 games at 1.92. But the fact that he is basically 1,000 points ahead of the next closest guy speaks volumes. He's passed the 200-point plateau in a season multiple times.
That blows my mind.
Yeah, 215 points in a single season.
That's insane.
What's that all about? Or how about the year he had 92 goals?
Yeah.
Or the year he won the Art Ross with only his assists at 168. The guy basically blew up the record sheets.
Yeah.
And nobody would have predicted a player would come in and just take over the game. And to me, his name will be at the top of that list forever. No one will ever touch his point records. Ever.
It won't happen.
Greatest of all time.
Yeah. And he's my number 1 too. So that is a great,
nice,
great
that
closing.
Makes me happy.
Yeah. There's no argument, like you said, no argument.
Yeah.
So we're wrapping up on 29 minutes. So we have less than 60 seconds to wrap this up. So thank you guys very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If this is your first time, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button down below. If you want to contact Justin, where can they find you?
At JustinTheMan87 on Twitter.
Perfect. And if you want to contact me, the best thing you can do is leave a comment below. But if you're on social media, I'm also on Twitter at Post to Post Show. I'm on Facebook as well at Post to Post Show there. Otherwise, thank you again for watching this. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next episode. Adios.